Let's say reality itself consists of particular potential versions of itself. And the thing that each potential version of itself share is that they're all equally potentially true and potentially not true. And so in this hyperspace of potentiality, we began by asking, how do you know that you are not already living in a virtual or simulated reality? Now, the word virtual and simulated assumes that the reality you are in is fake or not real. Virtual we associated with perception, the perception of a two-dimensional screen, like looking at a computer screen, for example. We say that is a virtual reality, or that is a virtual is, for example, on the monitor of your computer. Now, simulated means that it is a representation of something real, without necessarily being that real thing. So a simulated reality, we say, it is made up. Let's say it's a proposal, it's a proposition of a reality. It's a hypothetical version of reality. It's a hypothesis. But if you understand what a hypothesis ultimately means in the context of logic, you would also understand that any version of reality is ultimately a hypothetical proposition of what it is. It first is a hypothesis. It is first proposed, and then it is ultimately experienced. And so, let's put what we are saying in more concrete terms, rather than more abstract terms as we have been doing. The concrete understanding how the world might be a simulated or virtual reality can be explained in the context of time. Okay? We stated that time consists of a group of coordinated set of potential events, each of which share the quality that they all may or may not potentially exist, and this group is disclosed and contained within a certain position in space. The space is then differentiated by its quality of time, the sum relation of all these possible events have with one another. And so the unique relation that each group of events have with one another give the quality of that position of space as being different from any other position of space in any context of a multiverse. A multiverse meaning multiple or many verses or versions of some kind of principle or quality. We look at today's world and we see that we are heading more towards, let's say, a virtual reality, okay? Technology is part of our lives, and it's intimately related with how we communicate with one another. Ultimately determines our economy. Everything is automated. The most valuable minerals and materials and substances ultimately promote some kind of technological world or some kind of technology. And so we assume that in the ordinary linear duration of time always moving forward from the past towards the future through an enduring present, in that linear understanding of time, it seems that nature began more primal and, let's say, organic, and is moving more towards an inorganic, technologically advanced world. And so that seems to be the natural progression. We were animals and now we're humans, and humans are going to be integrated with AI, and who knows, maybe in the future humans won't be able to differentiate themselves from the reality that they are in, whether it is organic or inorganic, and they may be living in one reality, but really they are determined from a different reality. They exist in one reality, but they are present and experience the world from a different reality. How do we know that that is not already the case? How do we know that if technology advances to such a different or to such a developed degree such that you would not be able to differentiate, or your virtual reality would feel so real that you wouldn't be able to differentiate it from anything else? You would see it as being the only true reality that you have always known. Now I know this is a cliche, that imagine you were born wearing a virtual glasses and you grow up, and how would you know that you're wearing those glasses? You'd still be in those virtual. You think whatever you're perceiving through those virtual glasses is the real world. But this is a crude understanding of the topic at hand, because we're not trying to say that we are being deceived in any way. We're trying to say that our reality itself, our very body in this reality, and our minds themselves have been some kind of byproduct or production of some underlying, more fundamental reality at a parallel, different time frame. Because the quality that we did not mention in the relation of possible events, each occupying a position in space, and that position in space is differentiated from each other position in space by the unique set of internal relations that the potential moments have with one another. We did not add the quality of time, or what is the quality of time in that equation. And simply, the quality of time is that in any set of sequence containing an innumerable variable having a relation with other set of variables, is that it always forms some kind of hierarchy. It always forms some kind of foundation, and the preceding moments building upon that foundation. So it always involves some qualitative and not merely a quantitative distinction between principles or moments in time. And so these events, particles themselves, concur in a sequence, forming a narrative, a story. And the story itself is this quality that differentiates why one moment may be the past, and why one moment may be the future, and why one moment is simply the present. When we're talking about a qualitative distinction, we are not saying one moment is greater than another, although some moments are greater than others, and some moments are worse than others. But we are saying that moments take on their place in a position, forming a sequence denoting some demonstration or an idea or a narrative, or ultimately a form. And how do you know that you are not in some reality simulated by some parallel reality that you have no knowledge of? That is really the question we are asking. Is my life being overlooked by some being in a different reality that I have no knowledge of? I mean, the whole idea of God ultimately purports this notion that there is an onlooker, an absolute onlooker. As to whether that God should be worshipped or he is ultimate and great, that's a different question, and it may not be that thing is all that great. I mean, it probably is greater than you, and from your position in the hierarchy of the sequence, it is greater than you. But then it doesn't take much to be greater than you. We can just look outside into the simulated universe and see that that is obviously greater than you. When we say simulated universe, we are saying that its reality is questionable because we only derive its truth from a purely perceptional point of view. We only ever know whether it's true or not from perception. And perception, as the science of philosophy ultimately concluded throughout its history, is always inherently flawed and limited and obscure. It only points to an abstraction. How do we know that reality is not a simulation? Well, you don't, and in fact, the truth is that it is a simulated reality from a more fundamental prior plane of existence. And our universe itself denotes the idea that it is part of a quality of time where everything and all things potentially exist or do not exist. And that there is no way of coming into contact with anything in the universe. And the only way we can have the image of our universe is through our perception. We perceive the universe with our eyes, and we see that it is these reflections of light, and we argue that these lights, if you magnify them, exhibit content like planets and stars. But zoom out, and the very individual parts making up, let's say, a cluster, zoom out from any cluster in the universe, and it just ultimately ends up looking like one light discrete measure, one dot of light, one point of light in space. And there's millions and millions of these points of light in space. When you zoom in into them, guess what happens? They start appearing to be individual pieces of objects. They start being content.